Fujin, the mighty kami of wind, knew no rest. His existence was a perpetual roar, a swirling vortex of duty and ceaseless motion. Forever carrying his colossal sack of tempestuous air across the celestial canvas of Japan, his features, often obscured by the turbulent rush of the elements, were rarely seen and never sentimental. He was power incarnate, the breath that filled sails, the gust that leveled forests, the typhoon that reshaped coastlines. His duty was simple, yet absolute. Maintain the cosmic balance, even if that meant sowing destruction to ensure renewal. For the kami, life and death, building and breaking, were two sides of the same sacred coin. One night, high above the sleeping isles, chills settled in the celestial courts, a stillness that was deeply unsettling to the volatile wind god. This stillness was the sign of the Yomi miasma, creeping spiritual decay originating from the very edges of the underworld, seeping upward through the cracks in the earthly realm. It was a slow poison, corrupting the land, wilting the rice fields, and settling in the hearts of men, breeding bitterness and fear where once there was communal trust. The other great kami, in solemn conclave, agreed. This plague could not be fought with gentle prayers or sunlit cleansing. It required a force of pure, uncompromising chaos to scour the earth clean. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, spoke with heavy radiance. Fujin, your power is the only force swift and strong enough. The great cleansing storm, the Orashi, must be unleashed. Fujin's form vibrated with anticipation. To unleash his full potential was his greatest desire, the fulfillment of his divine purpose. He accepted the mandate with a silent, thunderous nod. The plan was set, a controlled but utterly devastating path of wind that would strip the miasma-infested lands bare, allowing the sun to purify the soil afterward. Fujin unfurled the map of the mortal realm, tracing the designated trajectory of destruction with a finger that trailed lightning. The path was wide, necessary to cover the breadth of the plague. His gaze stopped abruptly at one point, a small indentation on the coast, nestled beneath the imposing, snow-capped peak of Mount Fuji. This was the village of Asura. Asura, meaning sky of sorrow, was ironically one of the most cheerful, productive, and harmonious settlements in the region. Built upon generations of meticulous work, the prescribed path of the Orashi ran directly through the heart of Asura. Its total destruction was considered an acceptable, perhaps necessary, collateral damage. Fujin had no history of hesitation. Mortals were like rice stalks. They grew, they were harvested, and they replanted. Their lives were fleeting, their suffering temporary in the grand scheme. Yet something in the symmetry of Asura, its carefully laid fishing nets, and the smoke rising perfectly straight from its hearths, gave him pause. He descended to the edge of the world's atmosphere, cloaked in mist, a silent observer for the first time in his existence. He watched them for the span of 3 sunrises. He watched a young fisherman, Kenji, whose boat had been wrecked a week prior, patiently repairing it with salvaged rope and wood, singing a quiet, tuneless melody. He saw an old woman, Haru, whose basket was clearly full, stop to share a portion of her day's catch with a neighbor who had nothing to give in return but a bow. He observed a cluster of children, not fighting over a toy, but cooperating to pull a heavy, persistent weed from the community garden. These were small acts, insignificant on the cosmic scale. They did not prevent the miasma's spread, but they were acts of pure, untainted Makoto sincerity and truth. Fujin realized that the miasma had barely touched Asura, insulated by the genuine goodness and mutual support of its inhabitants. If he unleashed the Orashi as commanded, he would be destroying the very thing the cleansing was meant to preserve: uncorrupted spirit. The wind god, who was nothing but motion, suddenly felt the terrible, heavy weight of stillness, the burden of choice. His duty, as a kami, was to the larger cycle. His newfound feeling, this ache of pity war-re, was a disruptive anomaly. He wrestled with his nature. The wind in his sack began to writhe, threatening to escape and start the storm prematurely, sensing his internal conflict. Fujin ascended to the sky and sought guidance, not from Amaterasu, whose will was fixed, but from Rajan, the thunder god, his fierce, unpredictable counterpart, and occasional rival. He found Rajan beating his drums in the clouds, creating small, sharp bursts of rain that punctuated the divine silence. Brother, Fujin's voice was a low-pressure system. Unlike his usual tempestuous yell, the miasma requires cleansing, and the path is set. But there is a village, a Sora, pure in spirit. Rajin ceased his drumming, his face a mask of primal force and amusement. Fujin, the wind god, observing human morality. This is a new tempest. The mandate is chaos to bring order. If I destroy order in the pursuit of order, have I not failed my function? Fujin argued, the ethical paradox knotting his wind streams. Rajin laughed, a dry, electric crackle. The kami are instruments, brother, not philosophers. You are the wind. You do not choose which houses stand or fall. The wind simply is. But I carry the sack, Fujin insisted, clutching the colossal heavy bag of winds tightly. I am the one who opens the mouth. I am the choice. Rajin pointed a lightning-tipped finger towards the earth. Your true face is hidden because you are a force of nature. To show a preference is to become human, and to fail as a kami. The argument offered no resolution, only solidified the dilemma. Follow the divine law of cleansing chaos, or the emerging principle of selective compassion. Fujin returned to the edge of the atmosphere. The appointed hour was approaching. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and the impending storm. The miasma was growing bolder, pooling like black oil around the borders of Asura, testing the spiritual fortitude of its people. He watched Haru, the old woman, struggling to carry a heavy communal fishing line down to the shore. She slipped, and the line fell into the mud. Instantly, 3 people, Kenji, a young boy, and a merchant rushed to her aid, not questioning the interruption to their own tasks. They did not speak of payment or duty. They simply acted from a place of inherent communal care. This single, small tableau became the pivotal moment. Fujin saw his answer not in the celestial mandate, but in the enduring spirit of these mortals. His duty was to save the world, and sometimes saving the world meant saving the small, precious exception. He reached into his sack not to unleash the full, terrible Oarashi, but to shape it, to twist the path of destruction around this one sanctuary. It was the hardest thing the wind god had ever attempted. To control chaos is infinitely more taxing than releasing it. The wind streams within the sack fought him, screaming for release, pulling at his immortal sinews, trying to revert to their natural straight trajectory of destruction. Fujin braced himself, using the vast weight of Mount Fuji as his anchor point, channeling the opposing force through his own divine frame. He opened the sack. The wind roared out, not as a single, sweeping current, but as 2 devastating cyclonic shears. The main body of the Oarashi screamed past Asura's eastern flank, a wall of pure horizontal force that scoured the miasma from the neighboring hills. Simultaneously, a terrifying counterwind, a powerful controlled gust of protection erupted from Fujin's western shoulder. This counterwind hit the main storm track like a hydraulic ram, deflecting the most destructive eye of the tempest away from the village. The pressure difference was astronomical. Fujin felt the skin of his divine face stretch and tear under the strain of managing opposing typhoons. The village was still hit. Houses rattled violently. The small boats were tossed like toys, but the core structures, held firm by community and good craftsmanship, held fast. The deflection required a level of exertion so immense that Fujin's own strength was visibly draining, like a great river suddenly forced uphill. For a minute that felt like an eon, the 3 forces, the main storm, the counterwind. And Fujin's will held a precarious, shattering balance. Grayjan, watching from above, lowered his drums, his thunderous face now etched with surprise and a grudging respect. The wind screamed past Asura's borders, ripping the miasma from the fields, tearing through the corrupted pockets, and carrying the spiritual poison out to sea. The air in the valley was a blinding, suffocating rush, yet Asura stood, battered but alive. As the wind finally subsided, rushing away to dissipate over the ocean, Fujin collapsed momentarily, invisible to all but the keenest spiritual eyes. His giant sack of wind was nearly empty, his energy reserves near their minimum. He had fulfilled the mandate, the land was cleansed, but he had violated the letter of the law by choosing selective destruction. He looked down upon the village. Many roof tiles were gone, fishing lines were a tangled mess, and the crops were flattened. But no lives were lost. No homes were totally demolished. The smoke from the communal hearths was already rising again, though trembling. Haru, the old woman, emerged from her reinforced home, clutching a handful of dried rice kernels. She looked up at the clearing sky, not at the great swirling clouds, but directly at the spot where Fujin had anchored himself. For a fraction of a second, the swirling mist around the wind god thinned entirely. Haru saw it, the god's face. It was not the expressionless mask of divine power she expected. It was a face contorted by extraordinary, agonizing effort. Muscles strained, its eyes narrowed not in fury, but in concentration and immense pain. It was the face of one who had fought a harder battle against his own nature than against any external enemy. This was the wind god's hidden face, the reflection of a compassionate struggle. Haru blinked, and the face was gone, replaced by the familiar rush of the remnants of the wind. She whispered a prayer, not of thanks for being spared, but of quiet reverence for the deity's self-restraint. The incident was quickly assimilated into the myth. The kami of wind had passed, and the miasma was gone. Sora was damaged, but its spirit was stronger. Fujin ascended slowly, the effort of his control leaving him sluggish and weak, a feeling alien to his perpetual energy. He presented himself before the celestial court. Amaterasu gazed at him, her light piercing the last vestiges of the storm clouds clinging to his form. "The cleansing is complete, Fujin," she pronounced. "The miasma is vanquished, yet the destruction was ... localized." "The miasma had not touched Asura, Divine One," Fujin replied, his voice still low, like distant thunder. "To destroy purity is to serve the underworld." Amaterasu studied him. Sensing the immense energy debt he had incurred, the psychic strain of defying his primary instinct. "You risked the entire mission for a handful of mortals," she stated, her tone non-judgmental, purely observational. "I risked myself to save a living testament to the spirit of Makoto," Fujin corrected, using the human term for sincerity that he had learned. Amaterasu smiled, a subtle radiating warmth that filled the celestial hall. "Then you have not failed your function, Fujin. You have merely revealed its deepest potential. A kami's duty is not just to the cycle, but to the truth found within it. You have learned the true face of power, its ability to withhold." From that day forward, the other kami saw Fujin differently. No longer just a force of unpredictable chaos, but a force capable of profound selective care. His true power lay in the strength required to change his trajectory, to choose compassion over raw, unthinking momentum. This pivotal moment defined his character, bridging the vast gulf between distant deities and the vulnerable human life they governed. He had found his hidden face, not hidden in the clouds, but hidden beneath the surface of his own elemental fury. The scar of that immense effort remained in his divine features, a subtle line etched by the strain of his choice. He continued his duty, but now his winds carried not just the scent of rain and earth, but a whisper of vigilance. The wind god now flew with a new understanding of the small, vital importance of a single, true heart. The fate of the world was often decided not by the scale of the destruction, but by the specificity of the preservation. He had proven that even the most elemental and powerful of kami could evolve beyond their function. The tale of Fujin's choice remains a powerful testament to the moral depth possible within the ancient Shinto gods and goddesses. What sacrifices do you believe are necessary to protect true purity in the world today? Let us know in the comments below what you think of Fujin's pivotal choice. If you enjoyed this journey into myth and legend, please comment, like, share, and subscribe to Storycraft Studio. Thank you for watching, and may the gentle winds always find you.